Yeah, that's a fun fact. For real, even though that sounded sarcastic. I'm not joking.
Honestly, it didn't until you reassured, and then the reassurance.
Whoops.
Hi, and welcome to the Inner Moxie podcast, a podcast about not one, but two neurodivergent adults trying to live their best life on the neuro D-list and not hate themselves in the process. I'm your host, Ronnie.
And I'm Sandy.
And this week we will be continuing our talk about organization.
Mm-hmm. The next point is interesting. Anything we're doing is worth half-assing. I immediately have a problem, but I'm not saying that my problem is legitimate. It's just, this is a hard one for me.
Okay.
Not that I can't half-ass anything. I struggle to half-ass something. If my name and my work is attached to whatever it is, I can't not do it right. That's
Right.
another thing for me. I used to think, well, I think perfectionism, used to be a problem. I don't think it's so invasive anymore, but the idea of half-assing something is not great to me.
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely understand that. And I think, especially when you talk about stuff with your name being attached to it, yeah, I definitely understand. I think that's, for me, there's definitely been, over the years, a kind of a place to pick my battles. I can't. Full assing is such a weird phrase, but I can't full ass everything. So some things have to be half-assed.
What examples can you give? Because, I could probably say that about some chores at home, since I'm the only one that lives there. Also, cats who are not critiquing me.
Right. Well, let's put it this way: if back when I owned a company, there would be projects like the Burlesque Hall of Fame, which mean a whole lot to me. There would be projects like our movies, which meant a whole lot to me, like our movies that the company was making. And there would be other projects like, do you know Loot Crate? They're one of those services where you get like a box full of nerd shit every month. We worked on a lot of videos with them, which I thought was pretty cool. And so we would take those, and I'd take everything seriously. But sometimes we would do fucking toaster commercials or egg commercials and stuff. And we put all of this effort into it, all of this fucking effort into it. And had I gone, I would have done those good enough. I wouldn't have gone overboard. I wouldn't have added in all of the 3D animations that we added into it. Because at the end of the day, there were more important things to do. And that did end up, pushing deadlines back on other stuff because we were so spent on this when we should have just been delivering things that were good for that project. And so even I'll say this, sometimes you have to do something that's good enough. I don't even like to call it half-assing, because it's not like we didn't fulfill any of the things we were paid for. It's not like we didn't deliver. We still delivered a project, or we still would have delivered a project that I believe we were getting underpaid for.
That does factor in.
But yeah, sometimes, but we had that, we would not let nothing go out unless it was pristine. And I think there is, if you're running Pixar, maybe, but what I was doing was not running Pixar. What I was doing was doing commercials and occasionally getting to do work that really, really meant a lot to me. And I wish in some occasions that I had divided that effort more, that I realized I couldn't go 100% on everything. Time doesn't work that way. Effort doesn't work that way. Spoons don't work that way. And that I would have put the most in the things that were the most important and put enough in the things that I had agreed to do.
I can see that. I guess, I mean, I don't know. It's still kind of a hard one to digest because the compulsion to do the absolute best that I can is there, and it doesn't feel like ableism or anything like that.
No,
it feels like a compulsion. So it's coming from me. But I mean, I'm sure there's stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like when I'm super tired, I didn't read things well enough or whatever, and I'm not upset about that, really. It's, you know, I don't know. But I don't think I'm half-assing. I'm just being myself here. I don't know. The idea is a little scary. But
this is probably even a better one. Sometimes, like today, my kitchen is super dirty, and you know what? I took enough time to fucking get all the trash taken out and sort some of the stuff to be washed, and I didn't wash it. I was like, you know what? That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
I did enough to be able to do the job I needed to do in the kitchen, which you can't do every day because that piles up. But you can do that some days, and you can give yourself that. So I think that's probably a more useful example in day-to-day life.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay. I'll just leave it alone. I can't get out of the loop. So the next point is just, it goes where you put it. Sometimes with executive dysfunction, this person is saying, you know, where did I put that? Da, 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 da. Like we already kind of talked about, you know, where I think I'll remember, you know, maybe just like letting go of like, okay, maybe this thing just doesn't have a place. That actually kind of does work for me. Okay. You know, like I can move things around because like having cats that just get into everything really reduces the amount of stuff I can have out. So it's like select, you know, there are cabinets I go to all the time. It has also just helped me like whittle down the amount of shit I have, you know, which is helpful.
I need to do that. That one, I think I'm gonna take your position from the last bit on this one of like, I totally see it. I get it. I see that as valid. I have a really hard time applying it to myself.
And yours is compounded by other people living in your house.
Yeah.
And at least two of them
with their compounding
their neurodiversity added to the mix, other than the fact that they are children, not your wife.
You're very much, my wife isn't a child.
No, I'm not sitting here with Warren Jeffs. I would never be able to do that. Literally, he's in prison. Yeah, no, like kids are not well known for putting shit away without being told.
I will not make this podcast about my continual frustration that I no longer own any silverware. It's all gone all the time. I shouldn't need a budget for silverware.
Yeah, that is a little odd. I mean, whatever. Those are tools, not silverware in their eyes. But it is strange. I mean, once in a while something would disappear when I was a kid, but I mean, I don't remember. My mom and I just helped them put away all their silverware. They did replace some, but there are some things that they've had since they got married in 1981. Yeah. That's a long time.
Your parents that makes sense. I forget because my parents got married a very long time before they had kids. So I was 84. I believe that. I think they waited 11 years to have kids, so 73.
My mom was like a freshman in high school. My dad was probably in middle school.
Oh, you're still talking about when they got married. I was like, where the fuck are you guys from? Alabama?
What? No, in 1973.
Yeah, in 1973. No, I mean, they were young. They got married young. I think my mom was only 20. Sorry, Mom, I just gave away your age to anybody who does the math.
I can't do math, so
yeah.
don't worry, Ronnie's mom.
Her name's Belinda.
Belinda. Don't worry, Belinda.
This is fine. She doesn't listen to the show. But that name has become more popular, I think, in recent years, which I'm glad to see, because nobody knew everybody's like, what? When you said Belinda growing up, to the point where she just tells people, like when she goes to get seats at a restaurant, they're like, oh, what name do we put in her? She just says Lynn, because she doesn't have to repeat it.
I use whoever I'm with's name, because my name.
Oh yeah, Zanny. That would be a...
People are always just like caught off guard, which I don't blame them. It's not super common, but I don't feel like getting into any of that at that time.
Well, and I think too, they might be in a weird situation of not knowing if that is an odd name or a nickname.
Or they hear Canny, Sandy, Danny, so many variations of whatever it is.
This is how cripplingly shy I was in high school, by the way. There was a guy I considered myself friends with that I let call me Ryan because he misheard me the first time.
Oh.
For right about 6 months.
I mean, kids and friends.
Yeah.
Wowzers. Okay. I don't like this next one. Do I have to say it? It's in order, and this is where I struggle with rigidity.
I mean, you don't have to.
This is just something I would never do, but maybe it would be helpful for others.
Okay.
Use body doubles as accountability buddies.
Oh, that very much helps me.
This sounds terrible to me.
Actually,
sometimes it can be helpful, but I can... Anyway, explain what you think about this, because I don't like this.
No, just accountability buddy. It's sometimes if you have somebody working on a different task but in the same room, it puts on the perfect amount of pressure. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to probably like get up and go lay on the bed or lay down. Or just completely zone out. But also it's not like somebody looking over your shoulder.
Okay.
Like it would never work with a boss or a higher up or anything like that. It would work with a roommate, a partner, a
friend that came over?
Yeah, I was going to say a partner, either romantic or non. Like our first office when my company was starting up was just one room that had Mark's desk on one side and my desk on the other. And we actually got a lot accomplished in there. And it was a different vibe when we went into separate rooms. And that also had its helpful things. But yeah, having somebody also doing work, it puts on a comfortable amount of pressure that helps you get things done, or can if it hits you right.
I could see that.
Yeah.
If it works for you, like the last one of the other points.
Actually, there's somebody I love this. There's somebody on TikTok, and I believe they're an ADHDer. And I haven't seen them around as much. But she would use her lives as let's all be accountability buddies together. So you just come and see her live and she'd just be there like sitting and talking. And it's like, oh, we're taking a break in 15 minutes and we'll talk about stuff. And it'd have like the thing on there. And so she'd be like typing away. I don't even know what she was working on. But the idea was you were supposed to be doing your thing. And then, like 9:30 or whatever the time was, the alarm would go off and she would talk for 5 minutes and everybody would like write in questions and stuff. And then be like, okay, let's do a half hour. And they go back to it. And then everybody, which I thought was like a real neat way to bring that on a big scale. And I kind of miss seeing her around.
You could do that.
I could.
I would not join probably. That wouldn't work for me. But I see the merit.
Yeah.
This next one says, Oh, you could do virtual like you just said.
Mm-hmm.
This next thing says put it in your shoe. Since ADHD brains often forget, I hate, okay, printing out articles that, you know how like certain like one word sentence structure is not happening for me. When you're reading an article online and like one word is like hyperlinked or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that all popped out of me. But forget is hyperlinked in this article that I printed, so I can't even click it. But since ADHD brains often forget about things that are not right in front of us, sometimes they forget things that are. You realize maybe halfway to your destination you forgot the thing. Whatever the thing is, while they're remembering, they put it in their shoe, and then that way they can't forget it. Like if they know the shoes they're wearing. I guess like if it's a key, like I mean, I don't plan my outfits out ahead of that of time, but I also have one place where I put my keys when I get home, and if I don't, I will lose them.
My keys, like the things in my pants, including sorry, like the things in my pockets and whatnot, like they're literally just from one pair of pants to another. Of when I switch pants, I move all the things from one pockets into the corresponding pockets on the new pair of pants, and then I put them in, the dirty clothes. So my keys are kind of constantly in my pants, unless they're not. There's two options: my keys are in my pocket or they're lost. Those are the only two places my keys ever are.
I see.
Same thing with my wallet. Same thing with my bandana. Same thing with my my self-made what do you call it? Duct tape wallet full of business cards.
Fun. I used to have one of those. I also had a bracelet made out of the center part of Chuck Taylor's, just the eyes.
Oh, that would be cool.
Sounds cooler than it looked. I found a picture of it. I was like, man, I don't know what I was going for when I was 18, but here we are now. Much better. Keep it where you can see it. Boom. Self-explanatory. Yeah. Oh, the concept. Okay. The reason is object permanence and the difficulty, which I didn't really realize that there was a difficulty with object permanence that is common with us ADHD people.
Yeah. And I mean, I talked about it last week. But just to reiterate for people out there, a friendly reminder that when we say ADHD people have a problem with object permanence, that doesn't mean we're like babies. In that,
I don't know.
No, in that we don't know what happened to a thing when we can't see it. It's just not.
We can't rely on our memory to come up with it.
Rely on our memory to come up with it.
Yeah. And I wasn't trying to.
I am well aware that my wife and kids are at home right now. I'm not like, well, the world disappeared when I left for.
You are the only being.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next thing also is make it searchable. So I'm assuming this means on the computer. I don't know how to make things not searchable.
I would say that also, like, I don't know if this would count as making it searchable, but like, I use the function on my watch that makes my phone bing so that I can find it. I have to varying extents, had help. I got one of those things that lets off a loud noise when you press a button. And so I've hooked that up to. It's like a little tag that you put on something. Like you could put it. Like I did put it on my water bottle before I got my new water bottle. Much cheaper. And this one actually it doesn't have GPS. You just press a button that like you keep in a safe place, and then it'll ring. So there's
safe place is a slippery slope for an ADHD brain.
No, it has like tape on the back. So like I have it in.
Like you mounted it on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I didn't mount it because my landlord is a dick. But but I put it in my cabinet. But it has like 4 different colors, like red, green, blue, and each one has a corresponding little tag that will emit a sound when you press that button. So like for remotes, stuff like that. I've done stuff, speaking of remotes, because like we have an Apple TV, which has a very...
I hate that remote so much. I want to kill it.
I
hate it.
really enjoyed that remote.
Good for you.
When I didn't have kids. Now they fucking lose that thing every 2 seconds.
That is not my concern.
And so, so what I did, and this worked for a long time till they broke it and lost it too. But I found a big universal remote that was bright pink. Oh. And I was like, that's going to be a lot easier to find, at least. So maybe to that extent, that is kind of making things searchable.
Maybe.
But making things easier to find, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Side note on I hate the Apple remote so much because I don't know how to make it do what I need it to do. It relies on me being intuitive with my... I hate it. I was complaining about it the whole time at my parents' house and they would just laugh. I just was like, can you just please do this? I can't do this. I can't want to learn how to make it work for me is what that is. And it doesn't have any of the right clicks or doesn't have the right feel.
I will say this. I trust you because you are a very intelligent person and I know that about you. I can't imagine that being a problem.
It's a problem.
I believe you. I can't imagine it though.
I guess it was something that, I mean, I did make a big deal out of it. Not a dramatic deal, but just like, it's so not like I would try and then it would do what it would always do. And I just would get so like, I wasn't super motivated to like, I didn't have to watch anything. So I was like, fine, I can't do this myself. I don't want to deal with this. Here you go.
See, I have the exact opposite problem. I go to my parents' house and they still have the thing where they have like 3 universal remotes to get the TV to fucking work. And eventually I was like, no, just get like a fucking Roku box. And that's one control. It'll do everything. It's 4 buttons. You don't need all these buttons. And my dad's like, how are we going to DVR stuff? And I'm like, stop DVRing stuff. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
He's like, but I can DVR.
Some people just will always have a cable box.
Yeah.
And that is just their life. And that's fine.
That's
fine for them.
It is.
I understand that could be frustrating for you.
Well, yeah. This isn't a podcast about me complaining about my parents, who I love very much. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Also, with Roku, you can just download the app on your phone.
Oh, I do.
What is habit stacking, did you ask? You sure didn't.
What is habit stacking?
Okay.
I actually don't know, so that would be...
Okay, well, it was a different way of adding... This is where I learned about how habits and routines are different. Mm-hmm. So, this is the idea of gradually incorporating things in like I guess new lifestyle habits into your routine by associating them with an already established habit. So, let's skip to an example. If you are trying to incorporate a certain food into your daily diet, like blueberries or whatever, vodka. I'm not you. You may want to try eating a few blueberries with your first glass of water in the morning, if that's in your routine.
Right.
Integrating a new behavior with an already established routine can help you remember and feel that this habit is more attainable. And I think that's true because you're building on success. This has a lot to do with positive reinforcement strategies to increase the likelihood that you'll do it again, which is, very ABA, not just ABA.
Yeah.
Psychology in general.
Well, I was going to say, I think a good one for that is like, and I know there's other reasons to do this, but like take your medication when you eat breakfast. Or if you're the reverse problem and you remember to take your medication and skip breakfast, then eat breakfast when you take your medication. Of those kind of, if you already have something you're doing all right at, it can be helpful. I will say I kind of have a little bit of a problem with that because I will get like nice momentums going of like, I hit this schedule, of things, and I do them, and then that leads me into this, and I do them. But then it's like when a domino misses when you don't do the first thing, and sometimes that'll just fuck my whole day of like everything is off today, and I haven't been able to hit that groove.
Yeah.
You know? But I guess it's better than, you know, missing a groove every once in a while is probably better than not having a groove at all.
I mean, for me on that specific subject, so two things. I have gotten myself into that exact situation where I skipped or fast forwarded myself through certain parts of routine, which has caused dysregulation throughout the day. And I said it last week or 2 weeks, or whatever. I said it a recent episode.
At one point in time.
Yeah, at some point, not now.
You can put it on the record.
Yeah.
Your Honor.
Please. Left hand, not telling the truth. That's not true. I don't know how to do that.
You don't know how to lie? No.
I know how. I can't. Can't make it happen. Lost it. Oh, routine. Okay, so it's a struggle sometimes, and it's because I try to add too many things. And I still don't use an alarm in the morning. It's not to that level. I did for a short bit this year. I don't know for how long, but I was just like dragging ass with it, and it's like 15 minutes maybe. So anyway, the point is my cats wake me up very early, and like right now I did not fall asleep after 2:07 a.m. today, but I did stay in bed, and that's important so that the cats know that they don't rule the world.
I'll also say I do use an alarm, and a big part of that is because, you know, my kids have to get to school, and especially over summer school, they're going to school like stupid early. And so I was like getting up early to get them to school. And, but now my alarm is still set, and it'll go off at, I believe 6:30 is when it was set to go off. I realize I called 6:30 stupid early, and that may be like sleeping in for you.
Oh, I'm halfway through lots of stuff. By 6:30 today, I'd finished my entire routine, which is not normal.
But yeah, well, I don't have to take the kids anywhere, and I don't know. I kind of cherish that time in bed of like, I am up, but I don't have to be out of the bed yet. And I don't know. It feels freeing in a weird way.
Okay. I mean, in the morning, that is when my brain is at its absolute best within the first few hours. Now, that doesn't mean I want to talk to other people. No. I have my stuff I want to do, but I realized I was adding too much stuff. The alarm thing wasn't working out, so I was like, okay, let me do a couple of things. First of all, let me automatic write about this and get some, ideas out about it. So I did, and what I decided was, and today was day one actually, because I decided this before I went on vacation, and I was like, I'm not starting this on the 1st because then I will be gone, and I don't want to force this on me when I'm trying to relax a bit, or at least not be in my routine. That's the point.
Right.
So yeah, I started today. I pared it down to 4 things, which are doing Qigong for detox, which is less than 10 minutes.
We've talked about it, and that makes, but sometimes I just love the way the sounds certain things make, and Qigong for detox is apparently one of those.
I think Qigong is the thing. You've said that about other pairings with that word too.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, but it sounds mighty.
Well, I feel mighty afterwards.
There you go.
Or at least detoxed. It's a body detox. Anyway, so I do that. And then I have stretches that are from the physical therapy. And I need to do those for my back to continue on its healing journey, because otherwise I will get into this other bad habit of, oh, I'm fine, and then go for a 5-mile walk and fuck everything up and start from scratch. And I'm really trying not to do that. So anyway, so there's that. There's the stretching. Then I write in my journal. And then I do like that meditation where I'm just watching the seconds go down or whatever, and breathing, cycling. So like I start with 5 counts, breathe in for 5, hold it for 5, exhale for 5 as I'm watching the numbers count down. And then when I feel like my lungs are able to, if they get there, then I can extend that to like 6, 7, 8. I've gotten all the way up to 10 seconds before, which is a lot for me. I can't hold my breath.
No, that's all right.
So anyway, so I do that, and then I do automatic writing, which is like writing without thinking. And then those are the basics. If I have time, I can do other stuff. But like those are the things I need to do in order to be a human later.
Yeah.
And they don't have to be done in succession necessarily, because I didn't do them in succession today. Because when I wash my hair, I don't like to blow dry it, especially now that it's hot. So I was like, I need to do the first one because there's this knocking thing, and I also put self-tanner on my legs today. And then stretching, I'm on the floor, even with a towel, it just feels dirty. So I did those 2 things, and then I got in the shower. And then I had a lot going on this morning. I was baking some bread. Anyway, but I had time for it all because I did my core things and I stuck to it. So I'm doing that for 30 days, even on the weekend, which I kind of got a little lax on.
Yeah.
And that
Weekends
feels good.
are hard.
They are hard. It's a mentality.
Yeah. It's also, or I guess weekends are hard to be on schedule. If nothing else, you're not doing the same thing in the middle of the day that you're doing for the other 5 days.
True.
I want to be very clear about this. I enjoy weekends. I like not having to work. But yes, for like, I know like things like watching my sugars for my diet and also like just the general tasks of staying, of trying to keep healthy, doing the different exercises I do, taking my medications, much harder to do on the weekend, or much harder to remember to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing more difficulty about swallowing pills on the weekend or stabbing my belly.
Belly is a trigger word. I don't know why.
Sorry.
Not a super trigger to where it's just like, I don't know. It's just an odd word to me. It kind of, I associate it with that movie Junior. I think that's what it's called. Arnold Schwarzenegger was pregnant.
Yeah.
And Danny DeVito was in there somewhere. And that freaked me out so much.
It was kind of the spiritual successor to Twins. Because it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. It was like, oh, they're bringing back the things. My favorite line, because remember Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife, I believe, was pregnant in it too.
No idea.
And she's like, I'm pregnant. And he goes, me too.
That made me feel so awkward. Let me back this up by saying, I'm not sure if I've said this on air, but
I hate you.
Okay. You're entitled to your opinion.
No, I was saying that as you. I don't hate you.
Oh, I know. Who could? I'm just kidding. I'm sure plenty of people. This came out, I think I saw this in 6th or 7th grade. I don't remember. Directly in that movie theater, the PE teachers from elementary school were in the theater, and that weirded me out. So I must have been in 6th grade. The other thing that is weird about that is 5th grade sex education part 1 happened. Very confusing. I didn't ask any questions, but when they explained testosterone and estrogen, I took that as, well, I guess you could get pregnant at any time. Kind of thing, and never talked about that out loud. So there was a lot going into that movie,
right?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I will say they have never done a great job, even when they introduce sex education classes into public schools. They've never really done a great job about making sure kids understand it.
Well, they probably think they're fine because they're like, well, fifth graders are pretty inquisitive. Let's throw this in there and say, does anyone have any questions? There's also like a 10, 11-year-old is at the peak of like, if they are following the, general trajectory of like childhood stages,
Yeah.
if you believe in that or observe that, it's very much controlled by the group and not sticking out. So, like, to ask a question in that setting, talking about stuff that most fifth graders are not encouraged to talk about for whatever reason, probably not going to happen.
Well, also, I think it is such a ripe age of... This is one of my favorite lines from The Sandlot, which we've talked about on here before, of when they go down to the pool of, like, what does he say? Is going to the pool was the closest thing any of us had ever done to reading a Playboy, which we all lied about constantly. But that is that kind of age where not only do kids not know anything, but everybody is pretending they do because none of them wants to be the one that just doesn't know. So a question like, do you have any questions, is kind of like, who here would like to be made fun of for the rest of the year?
Right.
While actually giving the information that everybody else was looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Like now I'll ask whatever question because who cares? But fifth grade, super confusing. So I don't know how we got on that subject with junior. Somehow this had to do with habit stacking, morning routines. I cannot connect them. But welcome to the things we've talked about. Okay. Blueberries is what they were talking about, and then I talked about my morning routine. And I still cannot figure out how that happened.
I do like blueberries.
Do you? They're okay. I don't love... I mean, I like the idea of fruit. I don't... Actually eating it, like if I buy it, it mostly goes to waste.
I do have that problem in my house. And then fruit flies. And then real flies.
I hate it.
Hate it.
I mean, bananas, okay. But like right now, like I'm just sticking with vegetables.
This is the healthier of the two.
Is it?
I think so.
I don't know. I literally don't know.
I like carrots. And I just like...
Ugh.
No, like a good carrot, like not, I mean, I'm fine with the baby carrots, but like just like a carrot like Bugs Bunny eats it. It's an underrated thing.
I don't like it. It's a texture thing.
Yeah.
Raw carrots is about one of the worst things I could eat probably. Because then I just feel like it gets stuck here. Same with raw almonds, and I don't know why. If they are salted or seasoned, then it's not a problem. Carrots are a separate class.
Oh, that seems so weird. It seemed like it would be opposite.
You would think that.
Like that the salt would dry up.
It makes me gag, and I don't know why. There's no reason other than sensory issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Habit stacking. Talking about
Habits.
it. Okay. So they say... often when trying to form a new habit, people tend to jump right in with the hope that the habit will stick. I find myself doing that less more so now because I do understand that habits take a while to form.
Yeah.
And, once I've toyed around with it and failed, then I'll now make like a 30-minute commitment and keep great track of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I know this is more about stopping a habit, but like I know when I finally quit vaping, it just took quitting vaping like a bunch of times and just getting progressively better at it. But I guess to your point, I did track it each time of like, oh, I got, so I wasn't going to vape. I got a week this time. I got, 10 days this time.
Yeah.
Ooh, I got 9 days this time. Oh, I got 12 days this time. Oh, and eventually one of the times is like, oh, it's been 100 days. It's been 200 days. It's been a year. And then I was like, I can stop tracking this now. I feel pretty good about it.
Nice.
But sometimes probably the same with, or it's definitely the same with starting a habit of like, oh, I took my morning walk every day this week, every day. Oh, I missed it on the weekends. And it's like, well, I did it again. Well, I did Saturday, but I didn't do it. Oh, I did 2 weeks in a row, and then I didn't do it. Just sometimes, failing a bunch is the way to accomplish something.
Yeah. Well, to figure out what your motivation is and what the cadence needs to be, because taking a walk every day is not going to be humanly possible at some point.
Right.
You might sprain your ankle.
Mm-hmm.
It might be raining and we are never prepared enough for real rain in Southern California.
We're never prepared enough for soft rain in Southern California.
That's true. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I think all or nothing is the wrong way to go about a habit, is what the point you were trying to make.
Yeah. Well, I guess just be okay with failure. And it's, it's okay. You're going to fail from time to time, and then you got to, eventually it'll stick. And, and to your point, there will be times where if your fucking house is on fire, then you can skip the walk that morning. You've got bigger things to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you missed the walk this morning because you saw a hummingbird and you didn't feel like it, maybe you start reassessing what makes you skip the walk.
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy to convince yourself until you say it out loud sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's all it takes, at least for me. I don't know. People process things different.
Well, it's like this morning I didn't do my morning walk because I was like, it's really hot out. And, but I know I've made that walk plenty of times in this heat because it's a morning walk. I'm not talking about mid-afternoon. It's I made this walk plenty of times in this heat and hotter.
What are you considering morning? Because it was pretty muggy this morning as I was walking over to the other building at 9 a.m.
I don't remember.
I'm thinking it might have been around the same time because, maybe. I mean, it wasn't, I wouldn't say, oh, it's hot. I would say it was sticky and not comfortable.
Well, I mean, it's never comfortable to go walking. That's not true. I guess sometimes it's a comfortable level.
Yeah.
But the point is, I had done it in worse, is I guess what I'm saying. And that this time it was more of an excuse than a reason.
Yeah. Okay. So the benefits of habit stacking, did we fully explain it? The goal of it isn't about just forming a habit or two, but creating a routine from these habits. Because routines are the things that are that go on autopilot, which we alluded to recently in an episode.
Although I do like that the kind of habits are kind of built into routines.
Yeah.
It's a pipeline.
Right. I mean, it is helpful to understand that those are the things that are easier to change and harder to get in there. Mm-hmm. I would probably say now that doing the detox Qigong is a routine because I did it every day that I was at my parents', which, I have it memorized now. I don't need to do the video. And I do feel like I get something out of it. But that took a while and it wasn't every day for a really long time.
Right.
And sometimes those light bulbs just happen. Mm-hmm. So habits are conscious behaviors that become part of a routine, whereas routines are behaviors that are subconscious and done automatically, which is... I said that differently because I read this a while ago, and I guess I learned it. So, the benefits of habit stacking. It can help you with the following challenges: ADHD, focusing, organization, commitment, prioritization, memory, managing emotions, reducing stress. So I guess, I was thinking of this literally, habit stacking literally, but maybe you could say that reminding myself to be kind to me is a habit I'm trying to break into a routine. Yeah. There might be mental routines.
Actually, that's a really good... I like that better than anything on that paper. Good job. They should hire you.
They should. This is delirious. This might be half-assed.
Oh, man. There's... In my youth, we used to go shooting film, not hunting.
I don't love that.
We would go on shoots that would last I think we did ones that we would be out for literally 24 hours sometimes. But like and that used to be like such a point of pride of like, yeah, we did this fucking man, but we stuck it out. And then we go look at the footage. It's like, this is garbage. This is unusable.
Ugh.
Just because. So it is like, the thing is like, just reminded me of it because like, I don't know, we may be half-assing it right now.
Yeah.
There is always, I hate when that happens. Of like, this is great. This is great. The next day it's like, oh no.
Yeah. My brain is almost at that point. However, we can learn how to habit stack now because it's written out and I can say it. Okay. So determine the habit. You must consciously decide to implement new lifestyle habits into your life. Determine the present habit you hope to form and reflect on how this habit adds to your life. I think that's important to know. I wanted to say this earlier and then I totally got derailed. Why you're doing something can also affect the likelihood that you're going to continue to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And, 20 years ago, I knew that sometimes people had heart attacks or whatever, right? But I didn't care. I ate whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm a little more conscious of it, but it's not like the doctor telling me X, Y, or Z because they didn't really harp on it too much.
Right.
Or whatever. My cholesterol, the bad one, was a little bit high. And somehow it just kind of clicked. Like, I should probably do 60-year-old me a solid and, like, watch this for a minute.
Right.
I really don't want to have an unnecessary heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, 40 was the year where I was like, let me help me.
No, that's a good way to put it, too. And I will say, just because I brought up smoking earlier, my dad and my aunt, that's both of them. That's how they quit smoking. Was my dad was specifically a heart attack. I forget, it wasn't exactly that with my aunt, but something that involved a long hospital stay and a surgery. And sometimes it's like, you know what? Let's not let it get there. Let's maybe wean off before that. Let's, And I'm trying, I'm trying to figure out a lot more of my own health and my blood sugars and my weight and my other things it is, I think that is one of the hard things. And I don't know, I'll throw this out to any other ADHDers who are listening. But one of the things that's hard about it is the consequences are not immediate at all. And that's really, really hard to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
That if I go out and get ice cream tonight, the immediate consequences, I'll see my sugar go up, but that's like a number on a monitor, I won't feel all that different. But that'll eventually learn to losing quality of life and shorter life. And I like being alive. But man, is it really, really hard to measure, with such an immediate gratification and such a prolonged, it's hard.
Yeah.
Or that's one of the things I have with health.
Yeah. I mean, I used to struggle with that a lot, with that specific one,
Mm-hmm.
I convinced myself I needed a cupcake every day or whatever. Cupcake's not a good example. I don't know why I said that.
Well,
just
now I want one.
eating whatever quantity of whatever it is
Yeah.
that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you could probably habit stack it if you really cared about, not you, just in general. Okay, so the second thing is understand that it's not easy. We've talked about that,
Yeah.
but it's essential to know that forming a habit takes time and commitment, and it usually takes months for it to really get in there.
That is a good point. It is if you, I think that's true of a lot of things, but if you go into something thinking it's going to be a breeze and it whoops your ass, it makes it harder to want to go back again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, being prepared mentally and not assuming everything's the worst all the time, but if you're gonna set expectations, setting them low is usually the way to go because it goes up from there usually.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and two, it allows you to, if you're gonna, you need different gear, you need different preparations if you're gonna climb Mount Everest than you are if you're gonna climb just some fucking hill somewhere.
Yes.
And you need to be aware of that because you're not going to be prepared to do it, And I don't mean like emotionally, mentally, you're not going to be prepared to do it if you're lying to yourself about what you're about to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that's kind of, I know I do believe that there is something to be said for focusing on the next step. But you do have to have the bigger awareness of like, I am taking this step by step, but I have to know that my next step isn't going to be my last one. It could be like my world right now is just making it to this next step and I'll figure out the next step. But if you think that next step is your last one, oh, you're going to be so fucking defeated when it comes, time to do the next thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. Okay, the next one is accept failure. We covered it.
Oh, yeah.
Get organized. Oh, talk about failure.
I was going to say, one of my favorite quotes, I want to say, I think it's Adam Durst from Counting Crows. I may be misattributing this.
Why are there so many Dursts in the world?
And I'm not a huge Counting Crow fan, so I may have gotten his name wrong, but I think it's that. But it's one of my favorite quotes. It may not even be his, but the way to write a good song is to write 300 shitty ones. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true of a lot of things in life. Sometimes to do the right thing, you just got to suck at it for a very long time, and then you'll stop sucking at it eventually.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Get organized.
Mm-hmm.
Getting organized may sound hard if becoming organized is the new habit you are trying to pursue. Especially. Luckily, this pertains to habit forming particularly and only takes sitting down once and creating a realistic list of other habits you want to pursue along with the current one. And the list doesn't have to get done all at the same time.
No.
There is a tendency, at least for me, to like make a huge list and then in some way feel obligated. I don't feel that way about my daily to-do lists, but my morning routine was getting out of hand because I was like, I want to add this, and it makes me feel so good. But I'm like, I can't give this all 3 hours every day. I got to go to work.
Yeah.
There's 5 of them. So, that didn't always work out. So like getting organized, paring it down. What are the bare essentials that I need to be a human for the rest of the day?
Mm-hmm.
And stick with those.
Right.
That's what I did to get organized.
Well,
I'll let you know if it works.
Well, and two, I think just to their point about, it only takes sit down, put it on a list. I do think there is, and I think that is one of my favorite things about a good list, is when it's on a list, it becomes real. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's a pastime at best. Or at least for a brain that works like mine. If it's not on a list, then I'm at least like trying to deal with on a semi-regular basis, then I'm only going to think about it in downtime. Mm-hmm. Which means I will be exhausted and probably not in the greatest spot to do that. And it will be bumping up against doing other things that I have for my downtime. Mm-hmm. And,
those other things will win because they're preferred.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah. If it's between, fix whatever thing around my house is broken. If I don't put that on a list, then, it's Saturday afternoon. My stuff is all done. I'm exhausted. I'm thinking of that in the same context of like hang out with my kids or go through my video games or, find a new thing to 3D print or a new project to start, work on my pinball machine. There's no way the fucking whatever the first thing I said was fix the thermostat or
fix something that's broken.
Yeah. I think fix something that's broken is what I said.
Yeah.
I think thermostat is what I thought because that's
Oh.
what's actually broken.
Oh.
And I haven't fixed because it's not on a list anywhere.
Oh, okay. Well, if you care to, write it down. If you don't,
It's fine.
yeah.
I'm not going to live there much longer.
Yeah, fuck them. Okay, 2 more points. I'm losing sanity.
All right.
I say that as a joke, but it does feel that way a bit.
I've been there.
Okay. Start stacking only if you're ready. So moving through these things, again, these aren't rigid. This is whoever wrote this idea of how this should happen. But I would say in general, I did all these things unconsciously. So at least for me, this seems to be good.
You didn't do them habitually.
Right. I mean, I might. I love to get organized. It's the next part. I do accept failure now. Okay, after determining your overall goal of habits, or whatever the habit is you're trying to implement, or whatever, you can then begin incorporating each behavior gradually. For example, if you are now eating fruit with your first glass of water, not me, in the morning, that not me was me, not this person.
I figured it out, and I think our listeners did as well.
Okay, you're not stupid, listeners. I don't think you are. I just free flowing from the mouth. Lost it. It will be your new addition to habit stacking. You may want to add one more thing to your morning routine, which can mean even doing a task before you get to your first glass of water. Maybe you started to notice that you constantly forget to do your daily stretching after getting out of bed, so you decided to make stretching your first habit of the day. I think what they're saying here is troubleshoot, and the next one is don't overdo it, which is what I was doing.
Yeah, I've been there.
So
that's the flip side of a good list. It's a lot easier to write something on a list than it is to do it.
Right. I learned something a long time ago in this book called The Foodist, which, I mean, her thing is about how to make vegetables taste good and just cook food at home that tastes good. And so in that book, if you're kind of lost or whatever, add a vegetable. So how that translates to me in this scenario is, start with one small thing. Don't overdo it. I think this is applicable to a lot of things, and habits are even harder to form. So starting small and easy. And if you're struggling with that consistently, every other day, it still might be too big. Breaking things up into small bits is a great idea for us ADHDers anyway.
Yeah.
But with the habit, a lot is kind of stacked against us with our, resources and issues that we're dealing with. So, yeah, I would say start small.
Yeah. Well, and two, I would say that I think that that's a good thing to keep in mind, for the list, but even I know that that's been something that's been very helpful to me as someone who's had big struggles with ADHD, who's also had more than a fair amount of depression to deal with as well. Some days, and I think I've mentioned before, some days it's a struggle to get out of bed. Some days is a mesh of my body doesn't work and my brain is thinking about everything, and it's just so overwhelming, and the anxiety is clamming me up. And so the thought of getting out of bed is just too much. And so sometimes it is what's the least I can do right now? I can throw my blanket off. I can do that. And I throw my blanket off. And it's I can sit up. I can sit up. And I sit up. And then it's and then I may sit at the end of my bed for a little while. And luckily I understand other people may have things where they need to be certain places at certain times. But then sometimes it's just okay, push on your knees. Now you can just push on your knees and that'll lift you up. And, so I think that is a good piece of advice in general, or has been helpful to me when dealing with overwhelm is, and I've heard other ADHDers have struggled with this. Find the smallest thing you can do and then take that step. And then find the next smallest thing you can do. it does not equate to a very speedy getting through your list. But it gets you going. And hopefully along the way, something will click, maybe after the shower, or maybe after you get invested into something you're working on, or something like that.
Yeah. It's interesting that you framed it in terms of like depression, because I've never thought about it. I don't think I've ever struggled to get out of bed like that unless I was like sick, which you shouldn't even get out of bed.
Yeah.
That was an interesting perspective.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's something that, because obviously sometimes sadness comes along with it, but I think people overlook the half of depression that is
somatic.
Yeah. But it is just like, I can't move. And a lot of times for me, it is tied to anxiety of the world just feels
They're best
really
friends.
Yeah. It just feels really big right now. And so like sometimes I can be in a very depressed state, and it is like, but like the most literal depressed. All energy is gone. I'm just kind of zombieing through right now.
It's interesting because, okay, the struggle to get out of bed is not one that I can relate with specifically, but I definitely equate depression with sadness or being glum or negative.
Yeah.
Which is not always like that, though.
Not always, but a lot of times is.
Because I always wonder, not always, but I've recently been like, I wonder if I experience like somatic depression. I mean, I can get out of bed, but like maybe it's not depression. Maybe that's the wrong thing. But like, it's easier for me to stay home from work or whatever if I'm sick versus scheduling out a day to take off for a mental health break. So either way, I'm getting that, but being sick is suckier.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not the same thing at all. But sometimes I wonder if like I do think that sometimes my body does stuff like that.
Yeah.
For me, I would say for me to be like, hey, you need to like slow down because you're doing too much.
Well, and that's also one of the things for forever that that I think I ignored, that I always pretended that my body and my mind were two different things. And I have to remember, like, well, my mind is my brain and my brain is part of my body. The way that I treat my body is going to affect my brain. And I think that is one of the reasons that, especially not only physical quality of life, I start worrying about. But I do think that it's certainly not all, but watching out for my body's physically health will certainly impact in a positive way my body's mental health.
Yeah. I mean, something I learned in like therapy school or whatever, like the dopamine that kicks in from like going for a walk is the thing that can help counteract depression, but it's the motivation to get up to do that thing where the struggle is.
Yeah, it's that catch-22,
Okay, so thank you for listening. If you enjoyed any piece of that, which I'm sure is coming out much better after an edit than it felt coming out today for me specifically. I said specifically a lot a couple episodes ago, and I cannot let it go. So
you'll be okay. You'll have those things. You pick up on more than other people do,
for sure. But I was like, I said it again. God, I can't fucking stop. All right. Anyway, if you liked any of that, please like, rate, subscribe wherever you're listening. A 5-star review would be great. A review with words would be great too. If you would like to follow us on social media, you can do so on Instagram and TikTok at InnerMoxiePod. Right? Yep.
That's correct.
I'm in another loop with this that I just don't know this, which I do. And then you can email us. Robbie, please email us. Tell us about whatever that thing was.
The Famicom.
That. at my inner Moxie pod. What? No at before. My inner Moxie pod at gmail.com. If you would like to follow me on socials, you can do so on Instagram at Xanism, Xanism. I'm a religion and a disease. I'm very tired. I diagnosed me with exhaustion.
Yes, and if you'd like to hear more of me, you can listen to my other podcast, the Band Media Podcast. You can also follow me on the socials, but I'm most active over on TikTok at Band Ronnie.
Correct. And that's it. Stay fresh, cheese bags. Bye.
Later.